to play without using the stick to help me, the natural rebound and the force of the stick, okay? So, it still sounds good, right? It still sounds powerful. I'm going to use what Joe Morrell taught me, the using the sticks to help you. You hear how powerful it is? And you can actually hear the full quarter note. I don't know if you guys play other instruments. Do you understand like a quarter note? A lot of times, can you guys really hear me talking with these?
Oh, yeah.
A lot of times with drummers, you learn a quarter note. You're just basically, you're thinking just ba. You know what I mean? You're not feeling the full duration of a quarter note. Right. If you play a piano and you hit a key, a full quarter note is like if the tempo is so, you know, drums, you know, a lot of times we're hitting, but we're thinking an eighth note. We're thinking, you know, this isn't really a good example because the echo is actually making it sound like a quarter note. You hear that? So a quarter note stops right before the next note, so it rings out, you know. But drummers just think, a lot of times they think bet, they're not feeling the full value of the note, which is why I love the full stroke idea, technique, because you're getting the full sound out of the drum. I'm not a big fan of deadening drums, like with the moon gels and all that. You know, for certain recordings you might want that. But when I'm playing live, I want to pull all the power out of my drum set. And that's why I like these Warlocks, because they have the duration. You know, in a minute I'm going to go over there and let you hear what the bass drum sounds like. This thing is a cannon, man, but not a bad cannon, not too boomy. So anyway, so the full stroke helps me play with more. It helps me become more efficient, so I don't get tired. I can play a show and I'm still okay, you know. But that's a good
thing. I actually, and pardon me for interrupting, until I actually had the honor to study with Joe Morello as well, and I was doing the tension thing, and that actually changed my whole style.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm appreciating hearing this.
Yeah, because also you take this, once you get it with your hands and you adapt it to the drum kit, you're using it on the cymbals too. You're getting a tone out of the cymbals. The only place it really doesn't apply so much is the bass drum, because you're using your foot. But then we're going to get to that in a second. This is where most people don't pay attention to the sound. This is the ultimate thing. I've taught well-known drummers, and I've had to correct their bass drum. And the place where this really makes a huge difference is when you're recording in the studio. You know, I think the first time I really realized that my sound wasn't as good as I thought it was, is when I was in the control room, and they record you, and then they can pull down the music, and you can hear each individual drum, and like you're listening to your bass drum and playback by itself, and it's like, boom, it's never consistent. And sometimes you don't notice that with the music going on, but it really makes a big difference. You know what I mean? I've always wanted my drum sound to sound good, even with no music playing. You know what I mean? I don't want the sound of the band to mask my, my not having my drumming together. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I want it to sound good regardless. You know, no Pro Tools or whatever. I want it to sound good, old school style. So anyway, so check it out. You better have some earplugs in. Do you have earplugs in?
No, I'm fine.
So anyway, yeah, so this concept, it basically helps me play longer and not get tired, and I get the fat sound in the drum set. Now also, I can take that same concept with the stick, and I use it here too. Now, you actually, when you're pulling the sound out of the cymbal, you're actually getting a full tone. But realistically, I use more fingers when I use the cymbal. So this is not the best example. When I play cymbals, I use the fingers. So, you know, for certain things I'll use this, but I'm always making sure when I hit a cymbal, I'm using the same technique. You know what I mean? I'm like, you can kind of see the full stroke reflect itself in the cymbals, the way you play. So, you know. It's different though. On certain drums, the snare drum obviously bounces more, so it's easier to do that. As you start to get on the toms, depending on how low they are, it doesn't work as well. Like if I'm playing the high, I can still do it. As I start to get lower and the drum isn't tuned as high, you end up using a little bit more arms, you know, because it doesn't bounce as much. So you kind of have to use your arms to help. So anyway, the full stroke, man, it's super, super important. I could spend the entire lesson on that right now, and I'm not going to, because if you want to learn about it, Joe Morello has a video, or you can talk to me later or whatever. But this is the first thing, man, that really will change your drumming. Something similar, but with the bass drum. Now this is pretty huge too. This helped me a lot.
Pete, as an aside, do you tend to warm up on the mic first or on the kit? In a situation.
It depends. If I'm on it depends how my hands feel. Like if I'm on a tour or I have to do something like that, I have no choice. I have to do the pad because you can't just start playing a kit, you know what I mean, in front of a crowd and warm up. You know what I mean? It doesn't work well. So, but it's strange, man. Like if I'm at home, I don't keep my drums at home. I'll warm up on the pad. When I'm near the drum set, I'll probably warm up on the kit first. Maybe do the hands for a couple minutes. It's weird though, because the hands, if I don't warm up the hands, even when I'm playing kit, it doesn't feel as smooth. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what it is with me. Sometimes I feel like, like maybe my hands will hurt more if I don't warm up. Not that I have arthritis or something, but I feel like I kind of need to get the kinks out of them, or like I'm playing the ride, my hand might be a little stiff. So I guess I do kind of warm up a little bit on the pad first, a little bit. And sometimes I'll start on the drum kit, but I think the pad might be the first place to start. But what I like to do is, I like to figure out like the sound of my drums, to figure out how my bass drum sounds. I'll do things like I'll put a pad on the snare drum, and I'll play a beat and I'll listen to my bass drum, maybe on 1 and 3. Now check it out. When I hit the bass drum, and this has a lot to do with the Warlock drums too. Listen to the sound of the bass drum. I don't know, can you hear? I don't have the ear plugs in right now, so I can't tell. Can you hear it resonate?
Oh yeah.
And I'm not even kicking it with my heel up. My heel is down right now. So when I hit the bass drum, I'm always bringing the beater back. That's the beater dug into the bass drum. Listen to it. Hear it? Kind of sounds flat. It still sounds powerful, but it's flat. Now this is bringing the beater back. So you get the, I need that when I play. I want that. You know what I mean? I want the note to ring. So what I'll do is well, I don't do this now, but this is when I was trying to originally get the bass drum together. I would play beats with the pad on the snare drum, and I would just play 1 and 3 on the bass drum, so you can hear what you're playing on the bass drum. A lot of times if you're just playing with the drums and there's no pad, the sound kind of masks certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like if I start going like, if I start playing, it's going to be loud. If I start going, you know, I can't really tell what my bass drum sounds like because it's been covered by the cymbals, the snare. You know what I mean? The beat is going by pretty quickly. But if I take my pad and I cover up one of the main drums and I tighten my cymbals, I'm going to hear the bass drum a little bit more. To work on my bass, what I would do to work on my bass drum sound is I'd start super simple, quarter notes on the high. Listen to that bass drum. And I'm always making sure that my bass drum is consistent with the sound. I'm not going, you know, I'm always. So one time when I was out in Los Angeles, I gave a drum lesson to this pretty well-known drummer, man. I can't use any names here right now, but we actually, one of the songs he played on an album, the beat was this. It was like this, you know. Almost like a Ramones kind of beat, but like this. The simpler your beats are, the more space. Tell them, Felipe, what happens when your beat has more space, like in terms of like complexity or simplicity, like?
Sometimes it's easier to hear the wrong notes. Yes,
it's easier to hear what you're not playing right. If you're going, sometimes you can't tell, but if you're just going, you're gonna know if that bass drum isn't consistent. So I noticed we were playing this song, and he wasn't. Every bass drum hit was a different sound, and you know, a lot of times drummers don't notice that. But when you're in the recording studio and you're listening back to it and you're dropping the levels and you're hearing it, I mean, this is what helps you get a good sound, a fat sound in the studio when you're bringing the beater back and just letting the drum resonate. That's why I don't like to play drums with pillows pushed up against them. I don't mind a little bit, but the drum still has to ring. The drum is not ringing. I hate playing on dead bass drums. What about you guys?
Yes,
You like doing it?
I agree.
only
This sounds great.
now, personally.
I mean, and also if you're playing like thrash metal or something and you're doing double, you can't really have boomy bass drums because it's just going to sound like a wall. It's just, you know, it's not going to be like, you know. So it depends on what you're trying to do. But for most musical situations, I want a drum to resonate, to help me with the groove. So anyway, so what I like to do is, you know, what you guys could do, if maybe your bass drum is something that you want to work on, is just, you know, and just listen to your bass drum, man. Like, is it? And also in terms of the steadiness. You know what I mean? Like, to really lock into the. You see what I'm saying? Another way to do it is to use the rim kick. You know, let's like sit there and just. And then when we got this together, like eventually, really. You know what I mean? When you can really lock in. Now, you notice the rim click, I'm getting the same sound. I remember John Robinson. Do you guys know who John Robinson is? John Robinson played one of the greatest session drummers. He played on Off the Wall by Michael Jackson and played on like 8 million, other albums, Chaka Khan and stuff. Great studio drummer, legendary studio drummer. He once did an interview and he said the thing he noticed with a lot of drummers when they played prog, they weren't getting the consistent sound every time. Sometimes it was like. I know I'm being like petty with like saying, oh man, there's sound. But listen, that all has to do with the full stroke in a way. Because the full stroke is about what? Developing a good sound. A consistent. So that has to apply here too. Getting that full sound is what makes you groove harder. That's what makes the pocket. You know what I mean? So, going like. That helps you groove harder. That's really the key. It's kind of hard to explain it because it seems so damn simple. But it's not really. It's not simple. You know what I mean? Go home and sit there and go. And see if you can keep it in time with the bass drum ringing like that and the snare. Not. Get the full value of the note. When drummers practice, they always want to. They always want to do that stuff, man. And that's like, that's a whole nother thing, man. That's not going to help you groove. That's going to show that you can play bass drum stuff, but it's not going to help you groove, man. I mean, Felipe, I'm sure you know this, being an educator as well, man. You can tell immediately when someone sits down to play drums if they've worked on their sound. Yeah. Immediately, when you see somebody playing, like I know instantly this guy or this girl's got a good sound. I can tell, oh man. They don't even have to play any fills. As soon as they sit down, You can tell by the motion, you can tell by the sound, you can look at, instantly. Now, there's some great drummers out there that don't play like that, and I love them too. One of my favorite drummers is, I love Tommy Ramone, man, from the Ramones. And he kind of sucks as a drummer, but he's awesome. You know what I mean? He's doing everything that I talk about what you shouldn't do. And he's sounding great. So, you got to kind of pick and choose, So anyway, I don't know. But the bass drum, get into it on the bass drum. Also with the cymbals, man. Watch when I hit the cymbals, all right? I'm going to exaggerate a little bit just to show you, but if I'm playing cymbals, I'm going. Focus on too much though, right? They want to, come on, yes they do.
They want to always get you a gig.
That stuff is not going to get you a gig. Now, that stuff looks cool and it sounds cool. That's all based off of the full stroke motion too, but it's all rudiments. I'll just talk about that for a second, because a drum clinic masterclass wouldn't be one without some drumming masturbation. You know what I mean? There still has to be a little bit of that. But so a lot of that has to do with, you guys have plugs?
No.
A lot of that has to do with getting the rebound of the stick. I'll use paradiddles. Paradiddles is like everything that I do. In rock and roll, not really. Because I find in rock and roll, man, rock and roll is more single stroke. Jazz, funkier stuff usually is more to do. Sometimes in a rock and roll situation, that shit's not going to cut through. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have the power. You know, as of the single stroke. So, but it works well in fusion situations, you know, like jam band kind of stuff. And so anyway, watch though. I'll do some playing, I'll do some paradiddles, but it'll all be based on the rebound of the stick. And you'll be able to tell that it's based on the rebound of the stick because I don't use much effort when I do it. Okay, that's the key to getting the stick to work for you. Like watch. Because the hands serial doing that, man. You know what I mean? Like it's because it doesn't require a lot of effort. But the effort is basically in learning how to control the stick. That's where all the effort comes from. It's kind of like riding a bike, you know? Remember how you guys aren't going to be the kind of people, because sometimes I use this in my lesson. Hey man, remember what it was like to learn how to ride a bike? Yeah, I learned how to ride it like the moment I got on it. If you're those people, then don't say anything. But trying to ride a bike, man, like it, you know, you try like the first couple of days or first few hours, it sucks, it's hard, man. And then once you get the balance, it's easy. The hardest part is just getting the balance. That's the same thing with using the stick. You know, the rebound of the stick naturally. You know, once you get it, it makes your life easier. You know, look, check it out. You don't even see any body movement. Like, right? Like, look, check it out. Like, I'll play this shit this close to the drum. Now, I learned a lot of this from Joe Morello and Danny Gottlieb. I don't know if you guys know who Danny Gottlieb is. He introduced me to Joe Morello. I saw him play at Smalls, this jazz club in New York, 15 years ago, man. And I was in the back row. It was like this, kind of. And there was people sitting in front of me, and all I could see was Danny Gottlieb's upper body. And he played the whole night. And I didn't even, all I could see was this. And I heard all this stuff going on, man. So I'm like, what the hell? The guy doesn't even look like he's playing. You know what I mean? Like, you just, like, all I could see was this, because